Welcome to Marathon Champions, the podcast where running legends Benji Durden, Bill Rogers, and Ron Tabb share their timeless wisdom on marathon training and inspire listeners with their wealth of experience. These champions continue to impact the running world today.
So going back to the Japanese marathons, and you ran Fukuoka and won, what was it, 1966, I believe? Is that correct? 68 or 66?
I went to Fukuoka in 68, but I didn't win. I was fifth.
Okay, but you missed the American record by 1 second.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I mean, were you aware that you were close to the American record? I mean, it seems like over 26.2 miles, you'd been able to find at least a couple of seconds in there. So what happened?
I've wondered that myself over the years, Ron. It would be nice to have a little tiny niche in the record progression book. I doubt I knew what the American record was when I ran the race, Ron. We didn't know everything back then. There was certainly, if somebody had been on the track with 200 meters to go and said, kick, and you're going to break the American record, I think I would have found a second or two.
Exactly.
But the way it was, I was on the track. There was no one immediately near me. I was running the race of my life anyway, and I was happy to just chug it in and finish and get my 2:14:29. So, I wish someone had been there to tell me to go faster, kick butt, and get the American record, but that just wasn't the way it was set up. And
Who held the American record?
As well as we didn't know at that time how fast we were running in races. Hardly ever. I mean, it's just you were running.
Look at Boston.
Yeah. I was going to say, Bill, look at Boston, because your PR there, 2:09:27, and had I known that I was as close to you at that, when I ran my 2:09:31 there, I think I could have found a few more seconds to catch up with you and get that time.
We're like dinosaurs, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at Benji's GPS watch. I've got 4 GPS watches, and I can't use any of them. I don't know how they work.
Amy and I unfortunately live by our Garmin's. But it's just we're techies and nerds, which I've got so many computers, it's sick. Well, that was how we made our living.
Benji, I need to come out to Colorado so you can teach me how to use my computer better.
Well, you just, like I say, you need to get one of the new, cheap Macs, and I can support you remotely.
So. Yeah, I was actually on AOL last night. I'm old. I still have an AOL account, and I somehow screwed up my getting my mail. So I had to spend like 40 minutes on the phone trying to get my emails set back up again. So, Bill, I think you were the same way, Bill, aren't you?
Yes.
So we'll come back. We'll go out to Benji's and let him teach us how to work these computers.
I don't know if teaching is a possibility.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The one thing, Bill, you're talking about the coaching. So if I have any issues with all the kids I coach, I just go to them. Yeah. They know how to do everything on the computer, on their phones.
Yeah. The kids are doing great today. The numbers that are out there are 500,000 young Americans running cross country, high school, and college combined. The numbers are massive. I think I have the right numbers.
Oh yeah, well, you start seeing things like in a given weekend, half a dozen American high school boys running right at 4 minutes for the mile. And what's going to happen, assuming we have a way to keep encouraging them, is there'll be too many of them to get fame on the track. So they'll start moving out to the roads, which should move up to the marathon. The problem is we have to have a way to encourage them, a way to make them want to get that attention that they need to keep growing. And there's been a while why that hasn't been happening.
Yeah. Well, and, going back to participation, Amby, you were discussing the young lady at that ran track and cross country at in Maine, high school kid, and she didn't know who Joan Benoit was. So a good buddy of mine was just down here during spring break with his son, Alan Sharcy. You probably remember him from Penn State. He ran 8:44 for 2 miles in high school back in the 70s. And so his son is now running. And Amby, his son, had no idea who Steve Prefontaine was or Meb Keflezighi, who actually is good friends with Alan. That's just mind-boggling to me. The kids today not knowing who, or Steve Prefontaine. How do you not know who he is? How do you not know Meb Keflezighi? It's crazy.
Well, I guess TikTok doesn't revolve too much around those guys. I'll tell you something that could help a little bit in a week. A new book is coming out called The Long Run by Martin Dugard. And he happens to be particularly adept at telling fast moving, easy to read, fast page turning stories. And this book is entirely about 1970 Central Park, Gary Murphy, first New York City Marathon,
But
through Joni 84 and a little bit more. And it does it all in a really quick, fast moving way. And I think a lot of old guys like us are going to page through it quickly because it's fun to read about Frank Shorter in Munich and Steve Prefontaine running on the track at the same time, and Jim Ryan fell and didn't qualify for the final, which was happening at the same time through Joni. And then for some of the younger kids who, I don't know if they even read paper books anymore, but it's an easy read book full of history, and it's got all the stories in there. He did a great job putting them together.
And also, Amby, there's a new book out now. Karen just read it about Prefontaine. And I learned more about Steve Prefontaine, who he was and what his life was like, a young American star. But the whole thing in America, of course, it's I guess it's online or our sport. Are there any reporters left?
No, there's no media left. I mean, traditional media is just dead and gone. So there are none of there used to be good athletics reporters, not
Yes.
that their papers wanted a lot of stuff about track and field or marathon, but at least the reporters themselves at the Times and the Washington Post and the LA Times and the Philly Inquirer, at least the reporters themselves appreciated the Olympics and athletics. And those people are totally gone now. There's just,
Maybe LA Olympics will give athletics a shot in the arm here in the US of A. And the huge numbers of participants on the roads, everything's moving in a positive way. So in a year or two, maybe we'll see those results. That would be cool.
Yep.
well, there's plenty of online stuff. I mean, that's taken the place of the big circulation newspapers. The problem is the online stuff. It's only people like us who are going to go and read it and find it. It's not, people aren't getting it in their daily newspaper.
No.
isn't probably Let's Run, the website letsrun.com. That's probably where most of the young people get their information these days, isn't it?
And yeah, but it's also somewhat of a cesspool.
Oh, I know that there's a bunch of garbage on there for sure.
I think they try to police it, and I read Let's Run all the time. I've read
Well, I go to the front
years.
page. I very seldom go beyond the front page because it gets very, very acrimonious quite quickly.
But they also, the leadership there, I forget the name of the fella who really knows running really well
Oh yeah,
there.
the two guys that are basically, and they have a staff that's good. I mean, they know their stuff. It's just, because it's a forum, the all forums have this tendency to become, argumentative and caustic and you've got to be careful. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's what the internet seems to attract is this kind of, argumentative, caustic environment.
Yeah.
But they are willing
know,
to talk about, they're willing to talk about the tough issues, and
Oh
the
yeah.
World Marathon Majors are not.
Well, the
Yeah.
World Marathon Majors are in the business of making money.
I think we have to give Let's Run credit for having been in business for, I don't know what, 26 years now.
Oh yeah.
They've stayed with it. They didn't come and go. And I don't know how to explain platforms and things like that the way Benji would, but they're more or less on the same platform, which means there's 26 years of history there if you know
Oh
how to
yeah.
dig
Oh
back
yeah.
through the message boards and whatnot to find it. And that's a really great thing. Whereas my former organization, Runner's World, has changed platforms so many times that all of the great stuff Peter Gambaccini was doing in the 1990s, say, that's just long gone. You can't find any of that.
Yeah. I mean, you've got to have, good backups, and you got to have it's not easy. And the fact that you can still go back and find articles and information well past, the last decade is impressive.
So one of the things Bill and I, we were talking yesterday a little bit about coaching. He wanted to bring up that topic, and then Amby, I heard you talking about your early uh, coach with Johnny Kelly. Bill and Benji, I know a little bit about their coaching. Who coached them? I think was Chad or Mike Caldwell coached you, Benji. How in depth was with your training? Bill, uh, were you pretty much doing your own workouts, or were you following a coaching program, a coaching plan? And then same thing with you, Amby. When you were beginning your running career in college, and then post collegiately, were you kind of doing your own thing, or were you being directed by a coach?
I
And
was
the reason I'm asking this question is because I don't think the coaches get as much credit and recognition for what they've done. You guys have heard me speak highly of Coach Dillinger and what I think he did for me, and I think finding a good coach and mentor is so important. We're talking about the high school kids, and I'm working with a lot of high school kids these days. And it's disappointing when you hear a story that they don't know who is Steve Prefontaine or a Joan Benoit or a Frank Shorter or a Bill Rogers. When I hear that, they're not familiar with those names, I think it's coach's responsibility to teach the history and also make have a good understanding of the sport itself and the history of the sport and the evolution of the sport.
Hey, Ron, I think when I started running in the 1960s, high school coaches, which is a really, really important frontier, totally sucked. They were all, the
Bad.
assistant football coaches. But that has changed hugely now. And I believe the high school coaching across this country is really, really good at this point because about 95% of the coaches are people like you, Ron, or could be us. I don't know if Benji's coaching.
Not
Um,
anymore.
the people they've been through it all and they know it all. And that doesn't mean that we would agree with them if we were looking at a Monday through Sunday schedule and which day
Mhm.
should be intervals. But these people really love the sport and know the sport. And I think they're doing a great job coaching. And the manuals since Jack Daniels' book have given coaches a lot more of a basis to work from. My nephew is a high school coach in West Hartford, Connecticut. He's about 45 years old. And I can guarantee you he's one of the top 5 high school coaches in the country that no one's ever heard of. He's got 135 kids on his high school cross country team
Wow,
because
I love it.
every parent in his community has figured out shit, I don't want my kids playing football or even soccer where they're going to get a concussion playing soccer. I want them to go out for cross country and they're going to have this amazing experience with this wonderful high school program. And they're not all that good, but I have a ton of respect for today's high school coaches.
Yeah, I think when we were all going through our high school coaches, at least mine, they had no clue what they were doing, and but there are obviously there's some outstanding coaches out there today because you're seeing just incredible times. I mean, Benji commented on that earlier. What just a dozen kids right around 4 minutes in high school now, so
You know what?
obviously. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a simple anecdote. I can tell you exactly what my high school coach wanted me to do in 1963, 64. He wanted me to do the workouts Jim Ryan was doing. Everybody knew about Jim Ryan's workouts.
40
Guess what?
quarters.
Yeah, that was not going to work for me. That Jim Ryan guy, he had a little bit of talent, certainly at the mile, and I had no fast twitch at all. If I did more than a couple of quarters in a workout, I was totally toasted. I only thrived if I went out and did long, steady, consistent, easy efforts.
And I've learned in recent times, in fact, the last month, a lot of Ryan's training was based on swimming. And so it was very bad actually when you get right down to it for runners. Ryan survived it more than thrived on it. He might have been even better had he not done exactly what he did. Because he was doing extreme amounts of speed, and he did not have a long career when you think about it, given the talent he had.
Yeah, I'm not sure Timmons was that great of a coach. I've heard a lot of guys that went to school, coming from Missouri. There are a lot of guys that went to school at Kansas there weren't big fans of his approach towards coaching.
Well,
I
Jim Ryan,
remember I got to go to the meets where Jim Ryan was running. And I don't know if Timmons was a good coach or not, but I know one thing for sure. Jim Ryan was a unbelievable miler. And when you watched him, I would sit in the stands and watch him run his championship miles in those days. And he was awkward as all hell for 3/4 of a mile because he was running too slow. But when he got into his kick and started flowing at his natural speed, he was otherworldly.
Yeah. He was tremendously talented. I think he'd have
Yeah.
been maybe a 3:45 miler had he had a different training approach.
well,
And he
isn't it, Benji, Ron, and Amby, that exercise science has come to the fore? Thanks that uh, gentleman in Texas and Dallas who
Yeah,
helped
Ken
start
Cooper.
that with Bowerman, and we all started to learn about this sport and and but I think the coaches today, I was very lucky. They're fantastic, but they do not get enough credit. They don't get any credit, especially high school level, even the college level. How many do we really know? But when you look at the big money sports, I think we see money's coming into collegiate sports, football, baseball, basketball, but it's got to come into cross country. And I think at a federal level, this is being looked at now because the Olympic Games have a little connection here. You know what I'm saying to you? And so we don't want to be not too good in athletics. I mean, we have a great collegiate system, and our college coaches are generally really, really good. I had a great high school coach, and I liked Coach Swanson at Wesleyan Amby because he gave us some freedom too.
Totally.
You know, very different from Jim Ryan and his coach, I think. But we were distance runners. But I just think everything has changed so much more for the better. But we do need to pay our coaches, and we need more women coaches out there.
well, the women are starting to show up. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of the top women runners are being coached by women, which is it's nice to see that, and I think because also they understand the needs of a woman more than a guy would.
We've seen this play out negatively, some, here and there, and so that's all good news, Benji, for
Yeah,
sure. You
yeah.
know,
I just I got a job offer yesterday. I'm not looking for a job, but I got a coach reached out to me for Bishop Furrow High School down here. They're looking for a cross country coach, and I said, thank you, but no thank. I've got enough kids I'm working with privately that that it's enough. It's really time consuming, and I love teaching. I love coaching, sharing the experience that I've had the opportunity because guys like I've learned from Benji, I've learned from Bill, I've learned from Frank. All you guys, everyone has had a little part of this success that other coaches are having because they've learned, from um, the competition, the people that they ran against. I learned that from Benji that you don't have to do the high mileage. I learned, uh, there's a little bit from everyone that I think that we competed against that we've learned and we've been able to share, uh, with a new generation of kids. And
Do
Bill,
you
you're still
remember
out there. You're still out there sharing all of your experiences.
Do you remember the Disney movie about the guy who got canned as a football coach and he moves out to California and he's a brand new coach and he has to make his way as a coach in running and cross country. But he's very down to earth, and really
Was this the true story? The true story that was this a
yes,
yeah, okay, yeah. He's
I haven't seen the
Oh,
movie,
um
but I
Jaime
know the one you're
White.
talking about.
such a great movie,
yeah,
you
that
know.
is very
And
inspiring.
ah, powerful and we need to see that I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
But we're talking so much about coaching. There aren't any secrets out there, are there, guys?
I don't really
I don't
think
think
there are.
so.
The problem is they're myths. These ideas that if you do some mythical thing that
Right.
and I don't really, I don't think those mythical things actually exist.
I don't either. I mean, I think coaching, I think basically any of us and a million people like us can put together a solid high school cross country training program.
It's not
And
appreciated. It wasn't appreciated enough nationally, though, Amby. You know the breakdown of sports in America. Turn on the TV every night, and what do you see? The same sports. I
of
think that's
course, to,
weakness.
to
We got to
finish what
aim
I was
higher.
going to say, we put together a schedule, a nice solid schedule. We give it to, let's say you got 30 kids on your team, and what's going to happen? One or two of them are going to run really well. One or two of them aren't going to run very well, and a whole bunch are going to be in the middle. And you
Yeah.
gravitate towards the ones who are running well, and then you think, okay, maybe I need to give them more or faster or strength training or aqua jogging or whatever. And at that point you're just stabbing in the dark. You don't really know what's going to make a fast runner faster,
Yeah,
except a little
yeah.
more.
For me, because I am working with a high school group right now, but and we have a hard workout tomorrow, but I modify my schedule to meet the end of it, and it takes a lot more work to do that. But and I only have about 14 kids, uh, but not all of them can do the same workouts, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you just have to you have to. For me, it's I work on an individual basis, to their strengths and weaknesses, because the top runners can't do as, or the um, lesser talented kids, I guess, they can't do as much as the more talented kids. So you just have to modify their training a little bit.
Yeah, one thing I find is that people like the four of us here, I guess, we don't think of ourselves as being very special or different or better or something. But the fact is, if you're going to be objective about it, we all have a lot more talent than some of those people who aren't nearly as fast as we are. We're not smarter. We didn't necessarily run more miles. We might have in some cases, but the distinguishing factor eventually was that we had enough talent so that the program worked for us, and then we
Yeah.
naturally got hungry and wanted to do more.
Well, there's some genetics involved in this
Of
too. I
course.
mean,
Well, that's what he was saying with talent
yeah,
Yeah.
and genetics.
yeah. I mean, genetically, we probably were more gifted than some other people. So, And then there's Bill. I know you hate football, but some of the football players aren't genetically gifted to go out and run 26 miles either. So
I always wanted to run against 26 Patriots football players.
I thought about doing when you said that yesterday. That was exactly the same
Doing a
thing
relay?
that I would love to do.
I wanted the $1 million prize.
Yeah,
I figured I could run a
Great
5
idea.
mile,
you would have
26
killed
miles.
them. You
I
could
go
have.
whip them.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
have a
how many football
Bill.
players can run 5 minutes for a single mile?
There's 52 guys on a squad, I think, in the football. You could have taken the entire team
Yeah.
and they could have run a relay and still not. They would have been an hour behind you.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, at best. I mean,
yeah.
I ran against a few relay teams over the years, and I never had any trouble beating relay teams.
Oh, it'd
And
be
this is
easy.
people that are actually runners, not football players, but actual runners.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard to put
Guys,
together a bunch of people to run fast.
Why don't we do that? Benji, Amby, and Ron, all the World Marathon majors, I want them to bring in the New England Patriots here at Boston, 26 of them in a row in a relay. Let's get some.
No, use the entire team. That's the real challenge. Use the entire team.
Yeah.
And Red Sox too.
You got some offensive linemen that can't run a 400 in 2 minutes. So
Let's mess with those guys a little. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
Bill,
saying?
But it's got
Bill,
to be
here's
football
what they're-
players, not soccer, because soccer give us a race.
yeah,
Yeah.
soccer guys, that's a totally different story because
They give us a race.
Yeah, they
Bill,
would.
here's what the football team's going to say to you. They're going to say, okay, we'll do that
Yeah.
as long as you'll grab a football and run down the field and we'll come chasing after you.
So, no.
You run at it. You run towards us. Give
Yeah.
us a
Just gotta
shot
get
at
the
it.
head start.
Guys, this is too much fun, but I've got to go and do a podcast with George Hirsch.
So bye, Amby.
See you guys. Take care.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.